Hi, Julianne with Sterling. Part 2 of 3 parts, detailed examination of the SMC. Today, I'm going to focus on simulation days and what you should be seeing after simulation days. If you are a brand new paramedic student, that is, you just started school, do not watch this video yet. Instead, check your schedule and put an alarm on your phone to come back and look at this later. Because very honestly, if you're doing acceptable documentation on your simulation days, this amount of detail isn't real critical. Now, I will say part 3 is going to be critical, but this one, it's just really for your own edification and understanding. All right, so brief review. Simulation days where you're going in and you're doing a full top to bottom scenario scene with all the goodies. So maybe moulage or doing it in a set apartment or something like that. You're going to record a patient care report of a specific type simulation. And at it's when you lock the patient that the skills should populate. So we've got table 1, table 2, and table 3. And then in addition, there's going to be a skills session, skills lab set up in Sterling to have the team member and team leader skill sheets. So each team member should get an evaluation from one of their classmates, and then the team leader should evaluate the faculty should evaluate the team leader. We have got to use in scenario because the National Registry Sim requirement is divided up by age group. And so now we're going to drill down on each of these individually. Now we've looked at table 1 in the previous video. Remember, this is our ages: pediatric, adult, geriatric. Oh no, we didn't, because that's not in lab skills. My bad. Formative exposure, clinical or field. So the kind of reports that you're going to use are clinical or field. And oh, by the way, in the instructional content for this document, simulations are allowed. So patient care reports, in this column here is simulations. And actually, I'm going to show you this backwards because it just makes more sense. Simulations, clinical, and field. And over here, it's clinical, field, or capstone. Simulations will not be allowed over here. But, okay, so this is supposed to be your demonstration that you can function alone with minimal assistance, right? Over here, you still got the training wheels on. And so what I calculated is in field or capstone ambulance shifts, you're going to obviously serve as a team lead at some point or another, like you have to get out of the program anyway. And so in this example here, if you have a pediatric capstone or field report where you document that you're the team lead and the preceptor verifies it, I'm going to give you credit here for a pediatric contact. But then clinical, how do we translate this to clinical? Well, as I read this more closely, we need a patient assessment and a management plan. So when you write a clinical report who has a pediatric patient and the skills primary assessment, secondary assessment, and management plan are attached, then I'm going to give you credit here. And then everything else is going to dump into this column. So technically, if I'm really only focusing on simulations, I only need to talk about this column. But because of the specifics of it, it just makes more sense to kind of present it backwards like this. So in short, simulations, table 1, column 1 is where you should see those show up. I'll come back to that on the next video. Okay, table 2, conditions. So these are our diagnoses, and I'm going to tell you, you'll get a little frustrated when you're trying to do diagnoses on your patient care reports because we're limited to, what the COA has designated as the value or the valuable categories they want to see. That being said, the COA has said it is completely acceptable and even encouraged to quote-unquote double dip. So let's say that you have a 72-year-old male who fell and he's complaining of dizziness. And when you check his blood pressure, you find him to be hypotensive, and oh yeah, he confirms, yes, I have chest pain. So you actually can get 3 patient contacts out of that. All would be geriatric. Okay, of course, on table 1, that's only 1. But over here, you would have trauma, shock, and I think they call it cardiac complaints now. So you would get 3 credits for that one patient here. So that's in short way to say the number of patients you have in table 2 is not going to necessarily be equivalent to the number you have in table 1, just because we can double count over here. So table 2, the first column are the required simulations. You have to get these finished before you start your capstone. You know, that final round of shifts with the one or most 2 preceptors. So here we have a pediatric trauma and 1 is required. So how do you think you get credit for this? Well, it's a simulation. So we're going to have you write a simulation report. Simulations, though, can also be counted in column 1. All right, so a simulation, a clinical, or a field report that satisfies trauma is going to go in here, or you've used the diagnostic of trauma is going to go in here. And then column 2 is just like column 2 from the previous table. You know, a team lead will work, or in clinicals, if you've got primary, secondary, and management, that'll work. And we'll discuss that again later. All right, table 3. These are your advanced skills. And you'll recall that column 1 was in the lab. All right, that's what we did on the previous video. Now, column 2 is patient, clinical, on a patient, meaning a live person, in clinical or field or capstone. Okay, so those are the report types. Oh, but look, red asterisk, simulation permitted. So where there's a red star, you're permitted to have simulations. So on simulation day, you write a simulation report to go here. I will point out that they say successful. So it's going to be a little more difficult for you, but when your total number of IVs I'm going to put here so that I have a denominator for success rate, and then just the successfuls will be pointed here. Isolated live, I'm going to come back and talk about that on the next video, because what we're really concerned with here is the simulation. There we go. The simulation will feed column 2. All right. The second aspect after the simulation reports that you're going to write is the National Registry Sim requirement. And their requirement is very specific. They want to see the student was evaluated for the skill of team lead, team member. And that's why this has to be based on skill sheets in a lab session. And remember, I said in scenario, because that's how we're going to tell Sterling what the age group was of the patient when you were a team lead or evaluated as a team lead. So that is how you look for your credits in the SMC and in our EMT portfolio after simulation day.